Some educators are just born as educators. Some educators are just born perfect educators, and my father was one such teacher. He started teaching young people how to read Aleph Bet and so on and so forth, eventually becoming the principal of a school called Dil Yeshiva. My father at the time had an unbelievable story happen that I happened to be privileged enough to witness, and I'd like to share that story with you today. A young boy comes into my father's office and he's crying. And my father says, "What's the matter?" And this young boy says, "It's my birthday." My father says, "Why are you crying if it's your birthday?" "Because you want to?" Jokes. The kid breaks down completely. "I got $80 from my uncle. I was supposed to buy for my birthday a Sega Genesis, a game console that used to play these games on. And my mother told me not to bring it to school, but I was so excited so I brought it to school, and now somebody took it and it's gone." And the kid is crying his eyes out. My father says, "Don't worry, we're going to sort this out." He walks into the classroom, sits the kid down in his chair, and he starts taking one boy after the next outside of the classroom and asking them questions about the missing money. But my father left each child the dignity of being able to get out of the situation with their honor intact. He would ask them questions like, "Did you happen to see some money lying around? Did you find a wallet and want to return it but forget about it?" Etc., etc. One kid, halfway through the class, walks into my father's office, and the first thing my father notices is that in his back pocket there's a big bulge from a wallet with a lot of money for a little kid about 6 years old. My father says, "Did you happen to see a wallet lying around?" Kid says, "No." He says, "Because there was one boy who was missing his money. Maybe you found it, you forgot." Kid says, "Nope." My father says, "What's that in your back pocket?" Kid pulls out his wallet and he shows my father. He says, "Look, I have $79.50. Two 6-year-old kids bringing that amount of money to school on the same day back so many years ago. It was a fortune. The likelihood of that happening was next to nil. My father says, "Are you sure?" And the boy says, "Yeah, I even had $80, but I spent 50 cents on a soda." Right? My father says, "This boy, it was his birthday. He lost this money. He's so sad. People shouldn't have to be that sad, especially not on their birthday." Kid starts to feel compassion for the friend whose money he took. And he goes, "Oh, yeah, right. I remember. I forgot I was going to pick it up." He offers some sort of an excuse, but admits to the fact that that money belonged to the other child. Hear this. My father walks this kid back into the classroom, sits him down in his seat, and then proceeds to call every single other boy into his office and ask them exactly the same questions. Why? He's got the money. Because he realized that if he stops asking questions halfway through, everyone else in the class knows who took the money. The Torah says, "Tzedek, tzedek tirdof." Justice, justice shall you seek. And the double language is coming to tell you an unbelievable lesson. Yes, we need to seek out justice, but there's a just way that one goes about getting justice. If the price of justice is humiliating a 6-year-old boy for a mistake that he made in a way that he will never forget it, because those kids will never forgive him, then that's too high a price to pay, and you have to come up with another way. In this week's parasha, Moshe says to the Jewish people that they need to stop building the Mishkan on Shabbat. But there's an obvious question. The Torah Tamima, one of the great commentaries on the Torah, asks, in fact, we know the halacha states that for things that were taking place inside the Mishkan or inside the Bet HaMikdash, like the bringing of the sacrifices or other things, in fact, the law states that that supersedes keeping the Shabbat. So why is it that for the building of the Mishkan, the building of the temple, one couldn't build on Shabbat, but for the actual bringing of the sacrifices, one could? And he says the most brilliant answer, and the message in his answer is so applicable to all of us. He says that the building of the Mishkan didn't have to be in a specific time, but each of those sacrifices had a prescribed time. They needed to be brought in a specific place, in a specific way, in a specific time. It mattered that they were brought now. So often, when we are trying to do the right thing, there's a price that we are willing to pay. I have to do this, even if it's going to embarrass somebody else. I need to call this person out because otherwise people will learn, etc., etc. We find lots of reasons to do things that might carry a heavy price tag because it's the right thing to do. But what we learn from here is that maybe it's the right thing to do, but does it need to be done in this way, on this day? Do you see? A great question to ask yourself before you crush somebody in the name of justice, before you call them out on social media for saying something incorrect or inappropriate. Maybe you do need to stand up for the truth, but does it need to be here? Does it need to be in this way, in that tone? Quite often, we are absolutely correct about what we need to do, but we are not so careful about the way that we do it. Shabbat Shalom.